What is up, everybody? Welcome to the live start sit for the week one of the NFL season. Brant, it's been far too long. I guess, well, actually, only been too long since Wednesday for you and I, but too long since we've been on a live start sit on a Sunday morning. I'm so excited to be back. We were treated to some great football Thursday and Friday, and I can't wait for a day full of football all on a Sunday, Brant.
Yeah, it's here. We're finally here. We're finally back. We're live. Wednesday was a great time, a little appetizer, as us Fatboyz would call it, just to get ready. Thursday and Friday was great. You and me were talking pre-show about how good this lineup is this week, where it's only 3 or 4 games over a 4-point possible spread. So it should be close games all the way around this week. You get to see some new quarterbacks in places and some new moving pieces. It's here. It's Merry Christmas to all you football fans. It's here.
Let's real quick recap the Thursday night and the Friday night games, because we had some massive fantasy performances across the board. You had Isaiah Pacheco have a pretty good game. Obviously, Rashee Rice was impressive. Xavier Worthy and his 3 touches completely turned the fantasy landscape on his head. And then on the other side of the ball, you liked what you saw out of the Zay Flowers role. Mark Andrews is a little concerning at this point. Isaiah Likely was awesome. And all of us that rostered Derrick Henry in fantasy are just happy he fell into the end zone, because if not, we'd be sitting here scratching our heads going, what the hell happened there?
Yeah, absolutely. It was rough to see Derrick in the first showing. You had Devon. We haven't gotten into Friday yet. We'll get into that shortly. But yeah, Thursday. You had Devontae Smith. I think he had 7 catches, missing a touchdown, which that happens. But he's still a very, very feasible week. And then you had Barkley with
Brown.
this, and Barkley with this blow up, 3 touchdowns. Welcome to Philly. Welcome to having an offensive line in front of you. Welcome to Philly, Saquon Barkley. What a showing.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Brent, we got some questions starting to come in here, so let's get after this. Mark says, football is finally back. Brian Robinson Jr. or Chase Brown and half-point PPRs. And then he has a secondary question about the quarterbacks. Starting with those running backs, Brent, how are we feeling about Chase Brown and Brian Robinson today?
I'm going Brian Robinson. I absolutely love him this year. I think he's a 70-30 split with his backfields. I think if they do get behind, like way behind, which I don't see them doing a lot this year, I think Jaden Daniels' legs will keep them in. I think that coaching staff and that defense should be able to keep them in a lot of games. I'm not going to say they're going to win a lot, but I think it'll be closer into the fourth quarter before they get blown out. But I like Brian Robinson to be that guy there in Washington. So I'm going to start him as I think he will be that guy.
Yeah, so this is definitely one of those questions, Mark, that it's like, I wish this was week 3 of the season to answer this, because we don't really know what the Eckler Brian Robinson role is going to look like. Brant and I both are on the same assumption that this is going to be a Brian Robinson backfield, and he's going to have a great year. And then on the flip side of this, Chase Brown, Zach Moss in Cincinnati. If it was more clarity in that situation ahead of today, I'd probably go Chase Brown, just because I think there's such a path to work for the running backs in that game, in a game where I'm not sure New England's going to be able to put up points on the board against the Bengals. But just because I don't know how the Zach Moss Chase Brown thing shakes out, I do like Brian Robinson better against the Bucs today. He's one of those guys that I think could end up shocking a lot of people and being a really good running back this year. So Brant and I are unanimous on the first part of the question. Second part, he says, stick with Joe Burrow or start Fields or Geno.
Stick with Burrow, start Fields or Geno. I think I'm going to go with Joe Burrow. The rushing upside for Fields is hard to sit. So I don't. But I'm going to go ahead and sit him. I don't know how it's going to look with there in Pittsburgh this year. Geno I love, but I'm going to stick with Joe Burrow. I'm going to stick with the 40-point spread and maybe possibly him balling out to begin the season and show that he's back and healthy.
Also, for those of you who weren't paying attention or haven't seen the news yet this morning, maybe you're with us before you turn on your TV. Tyreek Hill was arrested this morning, detained on his way into the stadium. He is good to play if that comes across. He's in the stadium. He's getting ready for the game. So no worries there with with Tyreek Hill. Kevin says, what do you think about Austin Eckler this year? Brant, I'm going to go ahead and start this one off and say, I think early the role will be better for Eckler. As the season progresses, I think he kind of fades. But right now, I think early in the season, he's probably okay to potentially play in your flex.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the same boat there with Austin Eckler. I think it's going to fade, and as this team gets into games, he went there to get a reduced role. So I think it's going to be Brian Robinson, and then it'll be Eckler fading back a little bit. Have you heard an update on Higgins? We're trying to decide between him and Godwin. Matthew asked. Last I heard, Godwin is not playing. It sounds like he's extremely doubtful. Or not Godwin, Higgins. Sorry. Still, it's week one on my brain here. At last I heard, Higgins will not be playing. Extremely doubtful. But I do love the Godwin matchup this week, so I'd almost consider starting Godwin over Higgins. Actually, I probably will because that game should be a little bit closer. So I think I would actually start Godwin over Higgins this week.
Yeah, there's been no update on it anyway at this point. I imagine that's going to be one where he's going to try to go on the field. But if he's not 100% against the Patriots, I would be shocked if he plays. So I think you go Godwin as well. I like Godwin this year anyway. Oh, we know ball. WKB Media says Lad McConkey or Najee Harris. Brant, how do you feel about this one? I know you were one of our resident out of the two of us, the Lad McConkey fans. So
I love Lad McConkey, but I want to see what his role is going to be. So I'm going to go Najee this week. I know what his role is going to be. He'll be in the backfield at least 50% of the time, and probably seeing the ball quite a bit, especially if it is Justin Fields. I know both have been, serviceable starters in the past, him and Russ, but I'm going to go with Najee. I know what his role is. It should be in that offense.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. As an Atlanta Falcons fan, I'm scared as hell to play the Pittsburgh Steelers today because new offensive coordinator Arthur Smith has done nothing but stew last 4 months of being fired from Atlanta, and it just so happens he gets to come back and exert his revenge week one. I think there'll be a healthy dose of Najee this week. As far as the Lad McConkey things, I haven't necessarily been the biggest Lad fan, or landing spot fan, I guess. I do know Justin Herbert's a top 10 quarterback, but the thing is, I worry about Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman coming in and running the hell out of that football and not passing much. So I don't know what the volume is going to look like for Lad. So just because I want to see 1 week of it at least, I'm going to go Najee as well, Brant.
Sherman asks, if Chase doesn't play, should I start Josh Palmer or Deontay Johnson in the flex? You go ahead and take this one first.
Deontay Johnson. I want every ounce of Deontay Johnson I can get in my lineups this week. I will talk about him a little bit later on here with our underdog plays of the week, but Deontay Johnson's a guy I think could be a league winner this year, especially where his ADP was.
Absolutely. I'm in the same boat. Deontay Johnson's my guy here. I love the setup. I would Sherman, I'd venture to take a peek at what the rest of your lineup, even if Chase does play, on how you could possibly get Johnson and Chase in your lineup if Chase does play.
Kevin says Pickens, Zamir White, or Eckler in the flex today, Brant.
Oh, man, this is a tough one because I do like George Pickens. But I'm going to go with Zamir White here. I know what his role is. He's the number one back there. He should see some pass catching work. Eckler's in a split, but I'm going to go with that should be workhorse Zamir White in the backfield. And I believe that game is actually a fairly close one on table. It's the lowest scoring game of the week, so it should be a run fest between them and the Chargers. So, yeah, let me get Zamir White.
Yeah, so again, I think early in the season, Brant, what I like to do in the flex anyway is I like to have consistent, steady play in the flex. I don't want somebody coming and getting zeros. I got my big dogs in week one, no bye weeks. So I'm going to take Zamir White in the flex as well, just because it should be steady Eddie. He may not find the end zone, but he should have plenty of receiving and running work. I like Zamir White this week.
Absolutely.
Ryan says two. Oh, go ahead.
Ryan says pick two, full PPR. Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, or Zamir White. I'm going to go with Godwin is my first start. I absolutely love Godwin this year. Until I see something different, I'm going to be starting him. That next one's tough because Amari Cooper did have a great year last year. It was a banged up Deshaun Watson. They added Judy. I think I'm going to go with Chris Godwin, and I'm going to go with Zamir White because once again, I know what I'm getting out of Zamir White, and Godwin I think is one of the better starts this week.
I'm going Godwin as well, Brant. We're synonymous on that one, and then I'm going to actually go with. I'm going to go with Amari Cooper in this one, actually, because Deron Bland is out for the Cowboys. So that just leaves Diggs, who's a feast or famine cornerback. I like Amari Cooper this week. I think this is one of those games that I think could either be a shootout or a slow scoring game, but I do like the two wide receivers in this one just slightly better than Zamir White. I do think Zamir White has a good week, but I like Amari Cooper without Deron Bland.
Okay.
Rob says Najee, Brian Robinson, Donnie Mitchell need one for PPR, Brant.
I want to tell you Mitchell, but I'm going to go with the safe play. I'm going to take Brian Robinson here. I like his matchup. I like what he's bringing to the table. I'm going to go with Brian Robinson here.
Just because it is full point PPR in this one early, I'm going to go Najee because I do think he has a slightly better pass catching upside than Brian Robinson this season. But I like Adonai Mitchell a lot moving forward, but this is another one of those we got to see the rookies roll for a week. I think he's going to be pretty good, but he's one of those guys you put in, and if you're not confident in it, you could end up with 0. So I'll go Najee again. Also coming back, Arthur Smith coming back to play the Atlanta Falcons, going to want to exert some revenge, and I like Najee to be a big tool on that.
Joe asked T-Law or Burrow. Man, Burrow's missing some weapons. That should be a shootout there in Miami. Let me go with T-Law this week. I'm going to go with T-Law this week. I'm going to say that should turn into a shootout and a pretty good game there. So I'm going to go with T-Law.
Okay. Yeah, I like T-Law on that one as well. If we knew for a fact Jamar Chase was going to play and give it his all, and we knew for a fact T. Higgins was on the field, I think it'd be Burrow pretty easily. But I like T-Law with the underlying issues there.
Just came across NFL. Jamar Chase expected to play today on a 20 to 30 snap count.
Yeah, don't love that for Joe Burrow. Tony says, good morning, guys. Glad football is back. PPR question, Kyle Pitts or Jake Ferguson?
Kyle Pitts. I'm going with Kyle Pitts.
Man, I want to say Kyle Pitts, right? It should be Kyle Pitts. It should be a no-brainer that it's Kyle Pitts. However, I like Jake Ferguson an awful darn lot. Let's go Kyle Pitts because everything's right. If it doesn't happen this year, it's never going to happen. Kyle Pitts.
All right. Sherman asks Kyler, ETN, Javonte Williams, London, Kupp, McBride, Lions kicker, and Vikings defense. Oh, that's the sum up for the rest of his roster that we were asking about.
There's nowhere in there to get.
Yeah, there's nowhere. I was trying to find a way to get Javonte in, but that's your second running back. So, I don't think there's a way.
All right, Kevin says Dak or Caleb Williams. He says rumors Cowboys moving Lamb into the lineup slowly after missing training camp.
I'm still going to go with Dak. That's I'm not starting Caleb this week. I just don't know what to completely expect out of him or that offense. I do think he will be startable, but I'm going to go with the top 5 quarterback last year and go with Dak.
Yeah, I'm going Dak too. Even a little bit of Lamb on the field is good enough. Dak's a good quarterback, and there's plenty of other good weapons there. Brandon Cooks is still serviceable. Jake Ferguson is a top end tight end. Jalen Tolbert's going to have some use. Ryan Flournoy will be good over the course of the season. And yes, I know the weapons that Chicago has with Caleb Williams, but it's week one for the rookie. I know that everybody says he's the second coming of Patrick Mahomes. Let's see that happen. A week or two before we get super excited about Caleb Williams. Now, I'm not necessarily advocating or saying sit Rome or sit Keenan Allen or DJ Moore or any of these weapons. I'm just saying I want to see Caleb Williams before I start him over a quarterback who finished top 5 last year in fantasy.
Absolutely. Well, while we got a quick break here between these questions, talk to me. Which rookie overall are you looking forward to taking a peek at this week and keeping an eye on?
Yeah, it's Marvin Harrison, Brant. It's not particularly close, right? So Malik Neighbors was kind of on the field all preseason, making all these catches and kind of lighting the world on fire. And everybody's trying to make the argument of, well, maybe he should have been the number one wideout in this class, this, that, and the other. And Marvin Harrison has really not had any explosive highlights because they've kind of taken it slow with him. They didn't really play him a whole lot in preseason. I think he was on the field for one series in preseason. I'm excited to see him in the NFL and in action. We haven't seen him since, I think, the conference championship in the Big Ten last year. So I'm definitely excited to see Marvin Harrison back in action this week. I think him and Kyler are going to be electric this year. And that's just one that I cannot wait to see.
So mine's Rome. I want to see how he works, and this is a homer pick, but I do want to see how he works into that Bears lineup and see how relevant he is going to be this year. See, I know that Keenan's been banged up, but I'd like to see Rome and how he fills in that lineup this year.
Okay. All right.
Selena asked, Judy or Addison in the flex? I'm going to go with Judy. I'm not going to trust a secondary wide receiver for Sam Darnold yet. So I think I'm going to go with Judy.
So you're going to trust a secondary wideout for Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, it's not pretty.
Okay. Is Addison still? He's not questionable anymore, so he's good to go. I know he had an ankle issue earlier in the week. I think. Listen, man, Jerry Jeudy's been a constant disappointment since he's been in the league. And Addison was not. Addison was great last year, even with Justin Jefferson on the field. And honestly, there was times that Josh Dobbs had a start there that looked good. Who was the other quarterback that played for the Vikings after Kirk Cousins went down last year? Anyway, he's proven, Jordan Addison has proven he can be good regardless of who's under center in Minnesota. I think I'm going Addison here, Brant. It's not particularly close for me. I don't really think I'd want to even roster Jerry Jeudy at this point. I hope I'm wrong, but he's just been such a disappointment at this point.
Okay. All
right, Brant. What's that early slate game that you just can't take your eyes off of today? What's going to have your attention at the noon slate?
That's the Bears and Titans. It's once again, I want to see what that offense is. I want to see the Bears continue their defensive dominance that they did at the end of the year last year. And I'd like to see all the additions to Tennessee that they added. Their new offense with Will Levis and this gone Derrick Henry. I'd like to see what's going to happen there and with both teams this season.
Yeah, there's a couple of games on this noon slate that I wish were spread out a little bit later. The Miami Dolphins and Jaguars contest should be a high-scoring game. That's one that I would like to see how that plays out. Texans Colts, you got a divisional matchup week 1 there for those guys. Should be a great contest. Again, a lot of fantasy relevant names there. But the one that's really going to have my eye is the Bills and Cardinals. Obviously, I just explained why I was excited and what I wanted to see out of Marvin Harrison today. Kyler Murray is electric. Trey McBride's a top 5 tight end this year in ADPs. Then on the other side of the ball, you got Josh Allen, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. Who's he going to throw the ball to now that Stephon Diggs is gone, Gabe Davis is gone? It's going to be really interesting to see. Is it Keon Coleman? Is it Dalton Kincaid? Is it Curtis Samuel? Is it going to be a lot of dump offs to James Cook, Brant? I'm excited for that contest. I think that was definitely one of those games that I wish it was in Arizona and not Buffalo, so it was flipped the script. But those Bills fans deserve home openers.
Absolutely. That should be a good, fun one to watch. They ran the Bills ran at the highest rate after week. I think it was 11. They were like almost 40 times a game was their average of running. So are they going to lean more on that with the addition of Joe Brady still being there and the lack thereof wide receivers?
Okay, all right, Brent. Tell me about your DFS lineup this week.
So my DFS, let me go back to it real fast. It was my DFS. I wanted to stack that rookie in there. I know he was in there. I wanted to get that rookie Jaden Daniels in for my DFS. I wanted to see what he's about this week. I think he'll be the one that keeps the plays extended. You and me both have talked about Zamir White. While I have him in there, I think it's going to be workhorse there. James Cook, once again, cheaper option for being a 3-down back there and lack thereof receivers. Chris Godwin, I love. Cooper Kupp, I think is going to be second coming. Then I added DK. I was torn between DK and JSN in that spot. I ended up going with the expensive one just because I think that he'll find the end zone. Then I added Pat Freiermuth. I thought Russ was there, and he did like to toss the tight ends quite a bit, but that was prior to the news. And then Tyreek Hill I added in as well in our head-to-head. I love his upside. I got my expensive guy to lean on. Then I went with my Seahawks defense. They're playing against a rookie quarterback coming into Seattle. So
real quick, breaking news: Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott have agreed on a massive contract. I think it's 4 years, guaranteed $231 million, keeping him in town for the foreseeable future. 240 overall will make him one of the highest paid players in the NFL history. So good news for the Cowboys out there. They've got their guys CD and Dak together for the foreseeable future. I'm going to take you through my DFS lineup real quick. I went with a stack of Jared Goff and St. Brown. And then I finished out my wide receivers with Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison. Again, these are top-end wide receivers that at the end of the season you won't be able to get for this cheap. But at this point, they got them in there at those rookie numbers. They're guys you got to go get. I also have Cooper Kupp in my lineup and down in my flex. For running backs, I took Najee Harris again for what I said. I think he has a great game this year. Week 1 against the Atlanta Falcons in a revenge game for Arthur Smith. I took Rachaad White against the Commanders. I think there'll be a little bit of dump off work for him this week. And then I took Cade Otton in that same game. And then I actually went with the New York Football Giants defense. And I know this is one that a lot of people are going to be questioning, but I think they're going to have one of the best defensive lines in football. With Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence. So I like these guys this week to get pressure on Sam Darnold, make him see ghosts week 1, maybe force some turnovers and get some sacks and some points that way. So again, DFS lineups, if you guys have put any in out there, don't hesitate to send those in the comments. Brant and I'll love to dissect those this week as we move on as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Brant, let's look at these afternoon slate. Not talking about your Seahawks and your Broncos for a minute. Where are you at on those games?
Let's go with that Raider. Let's go with the Raiders and Chargers here. Let's see how Ladd works in. Let's see how the new offense there with Harbaugh is under with the Chargers. And then you go over to the Raiders side, and you have Gardner Minshew under center. You have Aiden O'Connell. You have Zamir White. And you have – let's see if they can continue how well they actually did at the end of the year when they fired their head coach and Pierce took over. I think that was last year. I could be running everything together. But let's see if they can continue, moving on the up and up there. So I like to see that game this week, this afternoon.
An official, Justin Fields is the starter this week against the Atlanta Falcons. So there you go. Those of you that were on the fence about Fields, he is now named the starter. So I'm going to talk about your Seahawks Broncos game just for a minute, and then I'm going to let you chime in. I just wanted to beat you to it really quickly. I'm excited to see what Bo Nix brings to the table. Right, there was like the 6th quarterback off the board. Is that right in the first round? And you know, a lot of people weren't sure what that was going to look like, but he beat out Jarrett Stidham to win the starting job, and Zach Wilson, I guess, to win the starting job in Denver. His pass catchers outside of Cortland Sutton are huge question marks at this point. I know a lot of people are expecting big things out of Marvin Mims, you know, but and you and I were pretty high on Bo Nix's college teammate landing with him in Troy Franklin. But it'd be interesting to see how that works. We'll talk about your Seahawks side of the ball here in just a second, Brant. But can Denver's offense manage to put points up this year? Or is it just going to be a really long season for Broncos fans?
I think it's going to be a really long season. I think it's going to be, you know, has its ups and downs with the rookie, but I like the fact that they're giving him the reins. They're letting Sean Payton start to build this team now, giving him a year to develop and everything else. So I think it's going to be a long year for Broncos fans, but it's going to be a fun one, kind of.
Okay. What are you expecting to see from your Seattle Seahawks?
Look, we talked about this, I think it was Wednesday. I am super excited. We saw one drive in the preseason with all starters minus 2 offensive linemen. And Lockett was banged up, so we were missing one wide receiver, but Jake Bobo filled in there like he does all season anyways. And it was electric. He went 4 for 5. 3 targets to JSN. JSN was 2 out of 3 with those. DK Metcalf with the deep fade. We didn't run the ball at all. Noah Fant, I believe, had a catch. If we were the slowest rate offense last year at running plays, so it can only go higher there. Ryan Grubb just came from college where they ran the most plays. I think in NCAA, I could be wrong with that, but he definitely was up there. The offense is going to be something to watch, and I think it could be electric if Geno continues to run it as well as he looked in that first drive. But if Geno doesn't catch on, this could be a long year for our offense.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those years that this your offense moves from the inside out with a lot of Kenneth Walker this year. I'm excited for him. He's probably my favorite player on Seattle's offense for fantasy this season. I think there's going to be more efficient numbers for DK Metcalf. And then I know you're excited about JSN. I can't wait to see how that factors out at the end of the season, JSN versus Tyler Lockett. All right. Well, while we got some more downtime in between the questions here, let's go to one of my other favorite things of the week, Brant. Let's go talk about our under. All right, Brant, take me through your underdog lineup for this week.
Underdog has, first off, Underdog has multiple free squares this week. You and me were talking. You got one. I got a little different one. I got to use the Dak over a yard. That's prior to him becoming the highest paid player in the NFL. So that could change my feeling on that. He may just bust now because, you know, he's got his back. He may just bust this week and may not get a yard. But no, we talked about, I talked about my free square, and then I'm going to talk about my other 5. I went a little trigger happy with it being week 1 and had 6 total here. My first one, Bijan to go higher than 25.5 receiving yards. I expect Bijan to go over the 25 or higher than the 25.5 receiving yards. I expect him to be used a little more in the passing game, and I like the fact that he can go higher than that. This is one that I went with my gut on this, and I took Ladd to go higher than 39.5 receiving yards. I think he could take this in 2 or 3 catches over the middle, and that might be his entire day. I don't think he goes much higher than that, but I do believe he will go higher than 39.5. My other one, little homer pick, JSN, higher than 42.5 receiving yards. I think that line is way too low. If we're going to get out there, we're going to sling the ball around. JSN could end up seeing 7 to 8 targets a game, 5 to 6 catches. Getting 42.5 yards shouldn't be anything. After this week, I expect it to be a lot higher than that. Then I took Zamir White to go higher than 55.5 rushing yards. You and me both talked about him to be a bell cow this week or to be in a good workload this week. Then I took Rico Dowell to go higher than 30.5 rushing yards. Somebody's got to run the ball there, and I think both him and Zeke could go higher than 30.5 rushing yards.
Okay, there you have it. My free square was a Bijan Robinson over a half of a yard. Again, he isn't the highest paid player in the NFL, so I expect him to do that just fine. As far as my actual plays, I've got Marvin Harrison higher than 8.5 targets. I think he's going to be an absolute target monster in Arizona. I think you're talking about 12 targets week 1 for Marvin Harrison. Second one is I've got Jonathan Taylor to go higher than 90.5 all-purpose yards. It shouldn't be an issue for him. He's going to be a bell cow again this year in Indy. I also doubled down on my Bijan. I took him over a half of a touchdown, whether it be receiving or rushing. I look for him to be a focal part of the offensive down in the red zone. Again, Deontay Johnson's been my guy this offseason. I'm going to keep rolling that today. I've got him to go higher than 4.5 receptions. I look for him to be the guy that Bryce Young is just looking for anytime they drop back to pass. And then lastly, everybody talks about Tyreek Hill in Miami. I've got Jalen Waddle to go over 5 or higher than 5 receptions this week. I think that's going to be one of the better games of the week. And there'll be plenty of firepower on both sides. I expect the Dolphins to air that ball out just like they always have. All right, Brent, we had a couple questions come in while we were doing that. Adam asks, Burrow, Rodgers, or Fields?
Chase was just active. Sounds like T. Higgins is out.
T. Higgins officially out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know we talked about this earlier. I think I'm going to go with Burrow still. I think I'm going to stick with Burrow. And see, even without Higgins, I'm going to go with Burrow here.
Yeah, I think I go. Oh my God, Brant! Why do I want to say Aaron Rodgers on this?
I don't know. I'm terrified for 4 snaps, 2 snaps. How many did he play?
He's hitting the over on that this year. I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers. That's what my gut says to do. That's what I'm going to do. Burrow doesn't have his full repertoire of weapons at his disposal because of that reason. I'm going to go Rodgers. Rodgers is going to have a healthy Garrett Wilson, a healthy Mike Williams for maybe one of the only weeks of the season that he's healthy. Malachi Corley, Breece Hall, Tyler Conklin. I like his full host of weapons today. I'm going to take him. I do think there'll be a lot of rushing upside for Justin Fields this week. But I still think I got to go Aaron Rodgers here, Brant, just because I like his pass catchers this week.
Okay. Half point PPR Fantasy Inc. asked, half point PPR Pickens or Malik Neighbors. I am going to go with Malik Neighbors. I'm not trusting Justin Fields to get the ball to anybody, not named a running back. So I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors. I expect him to be one of the clear pass catchers on that offense this week, and he could see upwards of 10 plus targets this week.
Yeah, it's Malik Neighbors for me as well, Brant. If this was a different situation where Malik Neighbors was walking in and there was a bona fide wide receiver 1 on that roster, Mayfield differently. But with Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, and that's about it in New York, and that's not saying much anyway. I look for Malik Neighbors to get peppered with targets. He could be a top 5 wide receiver on the week this week, just based on the amount of targets he's going to see. So I think it's Malik Neighbors as well, Brant.
Okay, absolutely.
Dickie asks, Scary Terry or Calvin Ridley at the flex?
I'm going with McLaurin. I expect McLaurin to be peppered with targets out of that from Daniels. I expect him to be the solidified number 1. They traded Dotson, who I thought could have helped compete, and then really there's not a whole lot left on their receiving core. McCaffrey's there. Luke, not Christian. Luke is there, and there's not a whole lot backing that up. Dwami Brown, I think, is also still there. But I'm going to go with McLaurin. I expect him to be peppered with targets.
Yeah, it's probably Scary Terry here, just because of what you mentioned, Brant. There's not a lot of hope for contests and targets. Scary Terry should be the leader in the clubhouse with targets by not close margins. So just again, based on that, I'll go Scary Terry. Austin says, will Chase be a full go today? What are your thoughts? We already know he's not a full go today. It sounds like he's going to be on a pretty limited snap count. Let him come in and get his legs underneath him, if you will. It came out today right before the Dak news and stated that Bengals and Chase are not going to be able to reach a contract before the start of the season. So now it's going to be a focus on after the season. So Chase is going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder when he is healthy or a full participant. But this week he's not. Even though he's on a snap count, Brent, can you advocate to sit Chase Brent or Jamar Chase on a snap count?
No, he's a first-round draft pick. I don't think, or first-round fantasy pick. I don't think you can bench him. You'd have to have a pretty good bench in order to sit him. So I think I'd still play him. I think he still will probably find the end zone, or at least when he is on the field, be targeted pretty heavily.
Okay. All right.
All right. Adam asked, JSN or Pickens, half point PPR?
That's not what he asked.
Smith Najigba or Pickens. You just want me to say the name to see if I mess
did,
it up.
yes.
Come on, man. I got this name. He's on the team. I got this name. All right. I'm going to go with JSN. Why? Because Patrick Surtain is probably going to shadow DK Metcalf. So I expect JSN to be the open guy there against Denver today. DK should still have a pretty decent day, but I expect JSN to be one of the beneficiaries this year as the be one of the beneficiaries there of this more high-powered, more throwing offense. So I like JSN over Pickens. And once again, I'm not trusting anybody that's catching the ball from Fields right now.
Yeah. Man, the Falcons cornerbacks outside of AJ Terrell are going to be a huge question mark for the Falcons for this foreseeable future. I know having Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates back in the secondaries or in the safety positions is going to be absolutely nasty. Listen, if Lockett was officially out today, I would go JSN here, but Lockett's not out. He's going to or expected to play with a thigh injury. I can't go JSN. I'm just not there yet. I know Brant's fully convinced, and he is the resident Seahawks fan. So maybe you take what I say with a grain of salt compared to what Brant says. But until Tyler Lockett's not the number 2, I'm going to assume Tyler Lockett's the number 2. I got to see a few weeks of JSN getting more targets than him before I feel comfortable saying that. Whereas even though it's going to be sloppy football, I expect George Pickens to be the number 1 target for Pittsburgh. So I will go George Pickens and half point PPR over JSN this week.
Okay.
Giovanni asks, Raheem Mostert or Zamir White in PPR?
This is tough. This one's tough here. Mostert was a top 10 back last year. Goal line carries. But now you have A-Chain back, you have Wright, you have Hill, you have Waddle, you have the whole staff back. You have 3 new offensive linemen on the Miami line. I think I'm going to go with Zamir White. I think I'm going to stick with Zamir White this week. I think I'm going to ride those coattails. Excuse me, not a whole lot bouncing behind him. So I think I'm going to go with Zamir White.
Man, Mostert's even at what is he, 31 or 32? He's still electric enough that he could get points on the board with one touch. So it's tough, but I do think I agree with you for a week one matchup, Brant, where like I said, nobody's on bye weeks. You should be getting points out of your other positions. If this is neither of these two guys were drafted super high, I can't imagine. So hopefully you get decent high points from other positions. Let's go Zamir White.
Hold on before you switch. Jalen Wright is inactive.
Zamir White.
Okay. I just came across the bottom. Zamir White Wright was inactive. Giovanni also asked Tua or Stafford. I'm going to go with Stafford. That's the highest point spread this week. I'm going to go with Stafford.
Man, I'm going Tua just because the ball gets out quick. It gets out to Jalen Waddle and it gets out to Tyreek Hill, two of the more electric players in fantasy football. Not to say Puka Nacua and Matthew Stafford are not, but I'm going to go with Tua on that one just because, again, getting the ball out to a guy like Tyreek Hill, letting him make the most of things is where I want to be. So I'll go with Tua. We'll split that one there, Brant, just because if we put too many eggs in the same basket, you and I are both going to have to eat omelets.
That's right. I like omelets.
Matt says Kenneth Walker, Devon Achane, Jalen Waddle, or Drake London. Pick one.
So I'm looking at this, and honestly, the highest drafted two are what? Achane and Drake probably when you drafted? Because I want to say Achane was in.
I can't imagine those guys are all more than a round or two different. ADP would have had Drake London and Waddle and Kenneth Walker in the same round with Achane a round lower, I believe.
Kenneth, Achane, Waddle, or Drake? My heart says Drake just because I think he's the number one. Cousins is a really good quarterback. I think I'm going to go with Drake. I'm going to say Drake London this week.
Matt, please send me the rest of your or send us the rest of your lineup because I just can't imagine having to just choose one. This may be one of the best lineups I've ever seen if these guys are all potentially going to be on your bench.
I wonder if this is DFS and they're all the same price.
that could be. That would make some sense.
If not, I would love to see this lineup.
Oh man. I'm going Drake London as well, Brant. I think the ceiling's really high for him in Atlanta. I think him and Kyle Pitts both are going to be so excited to get on the field and ball out with a decent quarterback in Kirk Cousins, something neither one of them have had, unless you count tail end of his career, Matt Ryan with Kyle Pitts as a rookie. So I'm excited to see Drake London catching passes from Kirk Cousins. That's where I got to go. That's what my brain says. I can't not pick that.
Okay.
All right, Brant, we got some downtime while we're waiting for some more questions to come in. What's on the menu for you today at your casa?
So I got some Anytizer wings that I'm going to throw in to eat during the noon slate. And then I'm going to run out well, let me put it this way. I'm probably going to have my child drive to go pick up Jimmy John's. We promised my kid a couple weeks ago that we'd pick her up. She wanted Jimmy John's for her birthday dinner, and we've been so busy with sports and everything else. We've been pushing it back. It's going to happen today. We're going to have some Jimmy John's today during that night slate.
Is that going to be during or after your family photo shoot when you're missing the game?
Yeah, leave me alone.
Yep. So I've got some family in town from the wonderful state of Florida. And so this afternoon we're going over to my grandfather-in-law's house to do a weenie roast around a campfire. And I initially threw a fit saying I'm not going over there and missing football. And my wife made a comment about he's got a projector screen that we can put out in the yard. So We're going to watch some football around the campfire. But before that, I'm going to have my butt firmly planted in the chair at the house by myself in peace and quiet to watch the very first Falcons game of the season. I've got some cheese curds to fry up for that, as well as a chicken bacon ranch pizza that I'm going to throw down on. So listen, it's a holiday in the Finley household, Brant. I know it is in the Walker household as well, but week 1 of the NFL season, I had good food Friday night, good food Thursday night. I got to have good food all day Saturday or Sunday as well. And then every other week after this is also going to be a holiday where I make sure we have good food in the house too. But it's the waistline ain't getting any slimmer this football season.
No. Next week I'm going to make up for it. I'm putting my games on the calendar to make sure it doesn't get trumped over. And I think I'm gonna wake up and I may have to run off the screen for a little bit to go throw some wood chips in the smoker, but there's gonna be something in the smoker next week.
Running.
Well, yeah, I don't want to be. Come on, this is during football. There's 2 things fat people run for. It's food and football. So I'll run off screen, throw some more chips in, and run back if I have to next week. I don't want to leave you alone.
There's also a third. If somebody's chasing us, we may get up and run, depending on what it is chasing us.
Yeah,
I don't want to be somebody else's food.
If I can pass the person in front of me, I might. But other than that, I'm probably just going to chill. I'm like, well, it is what it is.
All right, Brant, who do you have for touchdown scorers this week?
Oh, man. That's what I forgot for week 1. Give me a moment here. Let me.
Okay. You want me to go through mine while you look at yours?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So I'm going to start with my favorite one that I think is an absolute lock this week. I have Jonathan Taylor to find the end zone week 1. I have Bijan Robinson, as a touchdown scorer, Ramondre Stevenson, Devin Singletary, and the only one not coming out of the backfield I took this week, Brant, which I also really enjoy, is Dalton Kincaid. That took me all of about 30 seconds. You probably got one name written down in that time, didn't you?
I wrote yours name down, though. I got it right here. I've got my guaranteed lock of the week, Saquon Barkley. He's going to hit it 3 times. That's it.
This is true.
I'm going to go Travis Etienne. I'm going to say Etienne finds the end zone there in that game. I do like Etienne this week. JT was going to be one of mine. But instead, I'm going to go over to Houston. Tank Dell finds the end zone. Tank Dell will find the end zone this week. And no, I'm not just reading down my roster in our Dynasty League. Although it does look that way. I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels. Rushes one in there for Washington. Daniels will go in and score one. Then I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp there in the the night slate. And then I'm going to go back to my fantasy roster. Kenneth Walker is going to find the end zone for the Seattle Seahawks this week.
Okay, there you have it. All right, let's talk about this Sunday night game a little bit, because this is the highest point spread of the week. It's at 52.5 points as we got ready for the show this morning, Brant. What are you looking for out of this Rams and Lions contest? Now, last year, a lot of people ended up having the Rams later in the season. They kind of came on and surprised folks, but had the Rams or the Lions later in the season as, Super Bowl aspirations to represent the NFC. And then on the flip side of the coin, a lot of us, including myself, thought the Rams were in for an abysmal season last year, and they kind of came out and surprised us a little bit with Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. What are your expectations for this game tonight?
This game tonight, it's going to be a shootout. The last time these two teams met, I don't think it was last year. I think it was the year before. They scored 53 points, so they did hit that over in the spread this week. I want to see how Cooper Kupp looks, fully back healthy. How is he back in the offense? So I was looking up some things, as I always said. Puka wasn't as good when Coop was on the field. They both averaged over 10 targets per game when they both were healthy. So I'd like to see what that offense is going to run with with both of them fully healthy. I'm excited to see that. Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, I want to see how that backfield looks. You and me were talking back and forth at the draft, and now it's time to really see what it's going to look like this year. So it would definitely be interesting to see that Rams offense. I want to see what their defense looks like without Aaron Donald too. They lost their captain, one of the biggest names. I'd like to see how that looks. And then over on the other side of the ball with the Detroit Lions, JMO's back to fully healthy. Let's see how he works into that offense. It could make this offense even more high-powered. You have Gibbs and you have Monty there in the backfield. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's going to demand targets. And then on the defensive side of the ball, can the Lions keep it up? I expect this to be a hard-nosed fought battle. I don't see a whole lot of defenses. If you have either one, I would probably bench them this week in fantasy.
Yeah, so I'm super interested to see that Lions team, right? We have the Lions, depending on your format, if it's a tight end premium, you could have 3 players in a 12-man league drafted in the first round if you're the Detroit Lions in a redraft league with Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I'm excited to see how that shakes out. There's a lot of invisible fantasy pressure, if you will, on the Detroit Lions to perform this week because, again, Brant, when you're talking about first round ADPs on players and when we draft them in fantasy, we want our first round picks to perform. And so I'm definitely excited to see that. As a Jahmyr Gibbs owner in dynasty leagues, I'm excited to see what he looks like. But yeah, Sam Laporta, was on, an incredible pace last year. I want to see how that shakes out this season. There's a lot to look forward to in that contest. And then if we go to Monday night's game, we've got the Jets at the Niners. You've already said that you're taking the under on Aaron Rodgers' snaps. I'm taking the over. What are you looking for in that contest on Sunday night?
I'm taking the under. I'm looking at a defensive slugfest. These defenses coming out and showing that they're the best in the league against some of the best offenses in the league. I know it's hard to say the Jets are one of the best offense, but you think about it, they got Garrett Wilson, probably one of the top wide receivers. Then you got Breece Hall in the backfield, probably one of the top running backs in the league. Then you got Aaron Rodgers coming back. But those defenses are both powerful. I'm expecting a slugfest, and each defense is trying to step up. I expect we talked about this. I think Breece Hall could be in for a long week this week for fantasy owners and everything else. So I hope you have your games won and you're not relying on him to have a ball out week this week because I just don't see that against that Niners offense.
Yeah, so you're also talking in this contest with, this Monday night game with a 2 of the first 3 running backs drafted. Depending on where Bijan went, but you've got Breece Hall and CMC. CMC's questionable. Ayuk got his contract. How does that shake out? I'm excited for this contest. Again, I think the NFL script writers did us a good job, or schedulers, not script writers, did us a good job when they put this together for this week because it's been a great week of football. I think it continues today, and that I'm excited for that contest on Monday. As far as it could either be a super high scoring game or it could be an absolute defensive slugfest. When you talk about the defensive names on that side of the ball, which I know this isn't as sexy for us, but on the IDP world, you've got Sauce Gardner, you've got the Bosas, you've got the Bosa, you've got one of the best linebacking cores in football in San Francisco. So it shakes out to be a really good contest.
Absolutely. It should be a fun one to end it. I know we saw some high-powered over the last 2 days on Thursday and Friday. So I expect the Monday to kind of be some smash mouth, hard-nosed football. So one thing with this week, guys, while we still have some downtime, is you saw it on what was it, Thursday night and Friday, I think. The first quarters were kind of slow. Well, I guess the Thursday night, the first quarters were a little slower for the defense than the Friday. The offenses were both sluggish to begin. But the teams come out that first quarter. Don't start freaking out about your fantasy team, everything out. Let that first quarter, let the players get their legs underneath them, and let's see how it goes. It is still week 1. Some of these players didn't play at all in the preseason. So let's not try to overreact during week 1 of the fantasy football season.
Yeah, one of the most unanimous things that you and I have said over and over again for the first several weeks of the season is don't freak out. Start your studs. Just because somebody has a bad week. If you remember right, last year, Brant, it wasn't a great year for the Falcons, but Drake London had 0 points in week 1. And a lot of folks were down on Drake London. Then he had several other games where he was just fine. So we try to, curb that that roller coaster drop off, if you will, after 1 week. So, just be patient with these guys. Again, guys, we're getting towards the end of our show here. If you guys have any other, start sit questions that you want to see answered over the course of the day, whether it be, after the noon slate for your afternoon games or before the Sunday night game, there will be a live post being monitored by both Brant and I, as well as several other people on the Fantasy Holics team over there on the page. If you want to jump on that and ask a question, again, if you want a specific answer from us, ask for the Fatboyz. Otherwise, everybody on that list is definitely very intelligent when it comes to fantasy football and able to give you some advice. So don't hesitate to jump over there and drop a question.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, Fantasy Holics and Underdog, our partners. Go join Underdog. Use the code Fantasy Holics. There's a lot of free plays for week 1. Enjoy them. Fatboyz will always put them out during our lives and also on our podcast shows. So stay tuned. Maybe we can help you win a little pocket change in there.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Brant, I think that covers us for week 1. We'll be back same time, same place next Sunday. Looking forward to seeing you guys all again then.
Absolutely. Stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.